I'm going to start off this particular review with a little bit of a warning. I hope you only mean this humorously, but a warning. Academy Award, I'm looking at you for this one. If this film does not get an Oscar, then seriously, we have failed as a species. The first one didn't get an Oscar because, it lost out to another project by the same man. The next 3 films in this series did get Oscars, and probably much well-deserved. The last one didn't, but lost out to another one. But I warn you, if this film does not get an Oscar, then seriously, what are we even doing here? Now, onto the meat of the review itself. Now, while I said in my review of Doctor Who, Joy to the World, that I felt it was kind of a decent episode for Christmas, this was the big film to watch at Christmas. I am, of course, referring to the latest Wallace and Gromit film from Aardman Animations and Nick Park, Wallace and Gromit, Vengeance Most Fowl. Now, for a while we assumed that we weren't going to be getting any more Wallace and Gromit films. Partially due to earlier this year, the company that provided Aardman with their clay went out of business, shut down. However, they reassured us that new clay would be arriving. Also, Wallace's original voice actor, Peter Sallis, tragically passed away in 2017. And with the last Wallace and Gromit film being in 2008, it was a fair assumption at the time that we weren't going to be getting any more Wallace and Gromit films. We'd have to make do with the 5 that we had. However, in 2022, they announced there would be at least one more Wallace and Gromit film, with Wallace's voice now being provided by actor Ben Whitehead, who had been providing Wallace with an additional voice for a couple of years, ever since 2008, voicing Wallace in various video games and commercials or adverts. I'm also glad that when asked if there would be any more Wallace and Gromit films, I believe Nick Park said, well, he is getting into his 60s now, and he does want to look at other things, but he does have more ideas for Wallace and Gromit. Even following the success of this movie on Rotten Tomatoes with a 100% rating, he still says that he does have other ideas for the duo, to which I'd like to see some of those ideas if we have them again. But anyway, as I said, Wallace and Gromit, Vengeance Most Fowl. Now, Gromit begins to fear that Wallace may be becoming too dependent on his inventions, and watching the two's wake-up routines, with even one for Gromit, and preparing Wallace's breakfast, I do start to see why, and do come to accept that we as a species, humanity, sometimes we can become too dependent on technology. And his fears are only compounded when, to help Gromit out in the garden particularly, Wallace invents a new invention of an AI gnome, a smart gnome, named Norbot, voiced by Reece Shearsmith. And the townsfolk, upon seeing that how much good Norbot can do, ask to hire him out for various services. So Wallace, noticing that they are behind on their bills once again, starts up a new business, Gnome Improvements, where basically the gnomes will come round and will fix up your garden for you. However, things start to become complicated for the duo when the Norbot invents a whole load of other gnomes, smart gnomes, and they start acting in a sinister way. All because their arch-nemesis, Feathers McGraw, has managed to hack into the gnomes and reprogram them to be evil. So, not only do they have to deal with a whole load of smart gnomes, but Wallace is also being investigated by the police. Namely, Chief Inspector Macintosh, aka previously PC Mac, voiced once again by Peter Kay, and PC Mukherjee, voiced by Lauren Patel. There are also quite a lot of additional characters in this film, which I do like. The A Matter of Life and Death didn't have really too many additional characters. I guess Miss Thrip technically appears briefly, but aside from Paella and Fluffles, we didn't get to really see that many more characters. This time, though, we've got a whole lot more, including a joke that my family and I saw and we kind of laughed at, which is that the news presenters have suitably silly names. There's Anton Deck, voiced by Muz Khan, who clearly a play on Anton Deck, and then there's On Your Doorstep, voiced by Diane Morgan. These sound like jokes that would have popped up. I do have a joke book somewhere in here titled 2001 A Joke Odyssey, to which that feels like a joke that would be in there. I freaking love this. And as well as there are several other characters that I believe are also loosely based on characters from their previous feature film, The Curse of the Were-Rabbit. Such as, I believe I saw new designs for Mrs. Mulch, Mr. Kalish, and Mr. and Mrs. Windfall. At least, that's just what I saw. Now, as I said, if this film doesn't get an Oscar in some form or another, then we have failed, because this film is absolutely hilarious. And it's hilarious, it's sinister at some points. Like, I think seeing all those gnomes, all with the kind of wide eyes and kind of this creepy stare they give, I was genuinely unnerved at some points. And even, you get quite a lot of other references in this film. The one that I think really kind of stood out for me was one that a family member of mine said was rather like Lord of the Rings and the orcs, when Gromit goes down to the basement and he sees all of the gnomes working on, well, I think they're actually working on the submarine, but kind of building things out of metal, and with the red lighting, it is very much like Mordor and the orcs or stuff like that, and it's really sinister to watch, but I've already revealed enough spoilers ahead for now, but I'm probably going to reveal more in this next part, so go ahead at your own risk. But I think my main problem with the previous film, A Matter of Life and Death, was that the stakes didn't feel as high. I mean, yeah, sure, there was an element of danger, and A Matter of Life and Death does do well with sinister moments. Like, it starts off with a murder. That's enough. But the climax of this film, well, the climax of A Matter of Life and Death, I didn't really feel was as good as the others. It was certainly good, but certainly not as kind of big or bombastic or crazy as the others. This film's climax is utterly crazy. How crazy? Well, as I said, spoilers ahead, so go ahead at your own risk. But the film comes to a head in the climax with a penguin piloting a car with no engine, no wheels, being powered only by robotic gnomes, while being chased by an inventor and his dog and another robot gnome, tied to an office chair, powered by a leaf blower and gravity, being chased by two policemen on a bicycle with no saddle, and ultimately ends with a fast-packed action chase on canal boats. If that doesn't sound utterly mad, then I honestly don't know what to tell you. But there is also one other small thing I would like to point out. I mean, as I said, the film does have a ton of references, including during the final climax when Wallace ends up crashing through kind of a farmyard, and we see the farmer from Shaun the Sheep, voiced very briefly by John Sparks, even if it's just a, what? Just, as I said, if you don't know what's funny in this movie, I honestly can't help you. Just have a look for yourself, and this is, as in, utterly mad. Now, the one thing I did wonder before this film was coming out was whether it would have hint or whether it would confirm that Wallace and Gromit in Project Zoo was actually canon. Now, for those of you who maybe don't remember, back in 2003, Wallace and Gromit got a video game for the PlayStation 2 and the Xbox titled Wallace and Gromit in Project Zoo. So basically, Wallace and Gromit visiting the zoo in order to celebrate Archie's birthday, Archie being a polar bear that they've been sponsoring. However, they discover while there that Feathers McGraw has taken over the zoo, kidnapped the baby animals, and made their parents work. I did wonder whether this would confirm that would allow Project Zoo to be canon, or whether it would say that's not canon, that's just kind of a computer game. But watching through this film, I think enough of it lines up that we could actually consider Project Zoo as part of the official Wallace and Gromit canon. The only thing that maybe doesn't do it is that I don't believe Wallace ever says Feather's name. I mean, the other characters say their names, but I don't know, Wallace never says it, which implies he never actually knew his name was Feathers McGraw, but still, I also do think that this is kind of a worthy follow-up for not only The Wrong Trousers, but also for The Curse of the Were-Rabbit, because the previous films, apart from Curse of the Were-Rabbit, were all half an hour long. Curse of the Were-Rabbit, I think it's an hour and a half. This is something like an hour and 20 minutes, and for me, this feels like a worthy follow-up, because as I said, this film is utterly mad, it's bonkers, but it's got such British charm to it. The only other mild thing I can complain about is that Wallace and Gromit's house seems a lot darker inside. Like, the lighting's not terrible, but there were some moments I thought there's a lot of shadow casting over them. And maybe that's the point, to create some atmosphere. But as I've been saying throughout this review, if you don't know what's funny in this, I can't help you. And if you haven't seen it yet, go and check Wallace and Gromit Vengeance Most Fowl out for yourself. Let me know your thoughts down below, because quite frankly, I absolutely thought this film was a blast. So, what are your thoughts on Vengeance Most Fowl for Wallace and Gromit? Let me know down below in the comments. Can't wait to see what Arbon comes up with next, but until then, we'll just have to wait and see. Till then, this film is, for lack of a better term, cracking.